Thank you, thank you. Brave people. One of the reasons I want you to meet these people is sometimes, in fact, there was a post on, I use Facebook a lot to do a lot of advertising messaging, and every once in a while we'll get a comment. In fact, there was a comment on Lisa, who is one of our staff members who has a son who's been through our program, and she's really fervent and dedicated to it. There was a comment on her video that we have on YouTube that Levi helped us put together, and someone says, "Wow, what a great mom you are that you embarrassed your son by announcing that he's had this problem." Okay, and sometimes I usually delete those, but what I posted next to his comment this time was, you don't understand how proud this kid is of his accomplishment. When a warrior is trained correctly, a lot of people assume that our programs or any program that's associated with this must include an element of shame, and we must hide, and we must be worried that people will find out. Okay? Every month we hold a parents meeting where generals, the graduates of our Sons of Human training program, come in and they sit in a half circle. I get like 6 different ones every time because I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to do it, and they sit in front of all these parents. Bring it. Bring any question you want. We got this, we own this, we've dominated it. They have no humiliation whatsoever. In a few minutes you're going to meet one of them because he's going to do a little training for you, because they're not just guys who beat a problem. These guys are ferociously determined to have a ripple effect, as Nils has described, as Brandon has described, and as Shrey and other women are doing as well. They ain't going to sit around anymore. Part of what we train people to do is you don't beat Satan only by stopping a behavior. You beat him by doing good stuff you wouldn't have done, where you become the hero and the warrior that you were destined to be in the first place. So, let's start talking about the tools and some basic elements behind it. First thing is we separate people into 4 categories. Okay? You have the almost nevers, the experimenters, the addicts, and the former addicts. If you're the parent, if you're a spouse, if you're an ecclesiastical leader, the question you want to ask yourself is what role, what place is this person at? Almost nevers, the first one, is the person who maybe once every 6 months, once every 4 months, once a year, oopses. Okay? And almost never, I'm not really confident in the concept of a never person. Okay? Most people have something with as much exposure that's available. An almost never person is someone who, all you have to do with them, it's a very brief intervention. Do you know what you did wrong? Yes. Was it great? No. Do you have a plan to fix it? Yes, and they actually can execute the plan. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort to work with an almost never. They weren't going to be doing it much anymore anyway. The next category is the one you're going to be working with the most, okay? And possibly some of the 4th category. These are the experimenters. In other terms, it's called a casual drinker if it's an alcohol. It's a casual drinker. It's a person who dabbles in it. They're not an addict yet. They're a person who is a once or twice a monther, maybe once every 2 months. Okay, they're slipping into their significant behavior. They just kind of, they're not hooked, but they are slipping a little too much. Again, the intervention for them is not too complicated. What you should be able to do with them is you say, okay, do you understand that you did something wrong that needs to be fixed? Yes, okay. Let's make a plan. Let's use this planning part of your brain so we can check the values. Is it important for you to stop doing this? Yes. Do you have a plan? Let's make a plan together. Make a plan together, and we're going to do the following assignments, reading or writing or something like that, and you send them home with it, and they go home and they do most of the plan, and they do better. And they do most of the plan, and they do better, and they do most of the plan, and they do better. If the person can stay in this with only a little bit of tipping out all on their own, then they're not an addict. Okay? A person's not an addict if they can pull back into their frontal lobe with willpower and effort. Okay? Chamberlain, one of the earliest authors of conversations about this, his book is titled Willpower is Not Enough. And that's where you're working with someone who's an addict. So if you make a good plan with someone 2 or 3 times and they do not live up to their plan, if you make a plan with someone 2 or 3 times and they do not live up to their plan, you are working with an addict. Okay, that's the simplest way to define it for a layman. A good clinician can tell if they're working with an addict within about 15 to 20 minutes. If you're not a clinician and you don't know how the discernment for it, make a plan. If they don't follow the plan, then you're dealing with someone who's in addiction. You need someone with more training. Sadly, I have people call me every once in a while and they say, in the next 15 minutes, can you explain to me how to do a 3-hour brain surgery on somebody? Sure. Okay. Sadly, there are cases that require professional intervention. Okay. Please do not keep trying to do brain surgery on somebody who needs it when all you have is a pair of pliers and a screwdriver. Okay. So that's the fourth category, or third category is addicts. If you're dealing with an addict, we now have services available online. Nobody in the country, nobody in the world is too far for us to reach now. We have everything you need to train these guys, whether they're adults or youth, the women with their recovery. We have all of our programs online now. You don't have to sit and be afraid at a far distance. Okay? Then there's the former addict. Okay? This is a person who used to be an addict, who has trained themselves and trained themselves and trained themselves to figure out what is wrong. They know everything, all the ins and outs. Brandon and Niels would fit into the category of a former addict. Okay, they get it. They understand the enemy. They understand the power they have to align themselves to win. So they know their God, they know Satan, and they know themselves. They're very good about it. And they get beat up a little bit at times. The war gets a little bloody. I believe it was Karen that was describing. She says, I'm not that interested in meeting a knight in shining armor. You're better off with a knight who's got some banged up armor because he's already been to war. And he knows how to fight and he's still alive. Okay? Those are the ones that are more, you can be more safe around. So any questions about the four categories? Almost nevers.
I was just going to ask you to repeat.
Almost nevers, experimenters, addicts, and former addicts.
And you call the four categories of what? What are you calling it?
Just of behavior, misbehavior patterns of, I don't know, never had that question before. 4 categories of what? Of people who are messed up.
I know it's in the book, but I can't find it right now. Do you know where it is off the top of my head?
No. I don't even know if it's in the book.
It is in there.
It's in the back by worst tips for bishops.
It's in the back with tips for bishops. By the way, if you guys are wondering, anyone got a Dragon's book? Everything that we're teaching here, if you look over here, this is the book that we've written it all up in. So if you're a reader, you're going to want to have that book for all your students anyway. So that's the Like Dragons Did They Fight book, which is attached to the verse, which I usually end with so well at my initial presentation. I missed this time. And the Nephites were half as numerous as the Lamanites, but for their lives and for their wives and for their children, like dragons did they fight, is where the title comes from. Okay? Alrighty, now, most of you have come here because you want to be able to have something that you can use as for yourself to train yourself and others. You want to be prepared to be as independent as possible. You want to keep people from getting to that third category. And so what we're going to be training you in is, and a little background behind it. For years, Sons of Helaman has been around for 8+ years now. And for the first 5 years, people says, thank you for what you've done for my son. What do you have for his little brother? Thank you for what you've done here, but what do you have for those who don't have a problem yet? And everything I'd been taught up to that point, again, at some point you can't rely on the textbooks. You got to look for revelation in other places. But I've got bishops that would come to me and say, this young person did not have a masturbation problem until I told him what it was. So the bishop's all, what am I supposed to do with that? Okay, and then what are you supposed to do in a class? Hold up a picture and say, don't look at this. Okay, don't look at this pornography. You should not look at this. And kids are, what is the picture again? Show me that again. And so the biggest thing is anytime you mention it, you're going to stimulate curiosity, which drives everybody nuts. You're supposed to warn them, but it stimulates curiosity, which is different than with drugs and alcohol. Okay, with drugs and alcohol, you can kind of tell there's something wrong with it. With the biological response to sexuality, with that they're supposed to be having at that age anyway, okay, the little sparks of all that, they're going to get a spark of curiosity, so you can't mention, don't view pornography, or else you're going to have yourself a problem. So all the other ideas of intervention were creating the same kind of frustration. So I was in a situation where my wife had some surgery one day, and I had a chance to have a lot of quiet time to myself, and I was pacing the halls of the hospital agonizing over this question. And I go, what are we supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And the awareness that we all have lost battles, The awareness that there's something that tweaks in the brain for all of us when we slip off out of our value system was sorting through my head. And then it occurred to me that there is a common denominator that can be trained. You can actually train the brain to be less likely to become addicted to things. And the best way to phrase it is the fork in the road between your value system and what you feel like doing. An example of that, we have kind of hinted on it already. I value playing the piano, but I don't feel like doing it. I value going to work out right now, but I don't feel like it. Okay? I value doing my home teaching, but right now I don't feel like it. Whatever yours is, and so the more you can train the brain on microscopic life events to choose the value system over the feel like it, to train the brain to pick the value. Okay? As if it's as small as prayer. I value prayer. I'm now right there training them to notice that level 4 retarded conversation, irrational conversation, just about whether or not to pray. And they go, wait a minute. And as Brandon was describing, you get better and better at catching these on all sorts of areas of your life. I'm having a level 4 battle over whether or not to even pray. Okay? Then you say hi to Satan. Are you messing with me? He always has the same answer. Mm-mm. Nope, I'm not even here. Does that bother anybody that he denies it? You'll notice there's always a little bit of warrior chemistry that comes out right after he says, nope, I'm not here. So you're not the one who's trying to get me to not pray? Mm-mm, I wouldn't do that. Did you feel that? That's a little bit of warrior chemistry. Mother, why are you messing with me? And when you see him messing with your wife with some advanced training, you see him messing with your children, the chemistry builds. Really? You walk in my house and mess with my woman? Do I need to beat your head on a rock? I wasn't even there. It's her. Everybody look at her. She's a basket case. Okay. Yeah. But no, she's not a basket case. Okay, and he tries to get you agreeing with that. There's a whole lot of training on all of that process of how to catch him. Okay? And so what you're going to learn about, and I'm going to have Ryan come in and teach you. Ryan is an amazing young man. I met him when he was a teenager, and you will be glad to not have met him at that age. Okay? Ryan needed work, all right? But he's been a phenomenal example. It took him, he can decide how much of his, no, I don't want you to tell any of your story. Okay, he's got too much to teach you, to train you. He had issues. He had stuff he was working on. It took him some time to figure all this stuff out. Then he went and served an amazing mission. Got home from his mission, as usual with all returned missionaries, gets banged up a bit, but his way of fighting back is he's all, you want to do this to me? You want to mess with me? I'll just bring it. He has been training. He's under 25 years old, and he trains ecclesiastical leaders, he trains parents, he trains and he trains and he trains. And he does a phenomenal job of teaching some of the basics. And so if you decide to take the more advanced training course, we have an 8-week course that is 2 hours per night. Karen teaches versions of this. Ryan teaches versions. And Melody does an excellent job of teaching such things. There's several of our mentor trainers that will take you through the very elaborated version of the training if you want an extensive training. And so I'm going to have him walk you through. So what we've developed is a workbook, a very simple workbook that's designed to train the brain to make these choices of values over feelings, values over feelings. And so what the brain does is every time you've heard those analogies of like tiny little threads that when they're wrapped together and you wrap another tiny thread together, you can create a very strong rope. And so by choosing, you're going to learn about 6 squares. Ryan will walk you through that. And when a person does these, I might even have Niels comment on what it's like for adult men to try to get their 6 squares. So he's going to walk you through the basics of how the workbook works and teach you some other principles around it. So say hello to Ryan.
So my style of teaching and training is not lecture format. So if I'm going to be asking questions, if you're not comfortable participating, that's okay. But I can tell you right now that if you participate, if you ask questions, if you make comments, you're going to get more out of this. So I want to know from all of you, we have anywhere from the next 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to be talking about how to use this, how to use this. the mechanics, and then we're also going to be talking about how to get the most growth possible. So I just wanted to set that all up as we're passing this out. I'm actually going to have one of our students come out and talk to you. I felt like the best introduction to what I'm about to teach you is actually from someone who's been through the training, who didn't have 5 years sitting in Maurice's office, to let you know what you can realistically expect from just using these. So we have Tausha Hansen. She's going to come up. She's going to talk about her experiences. She's got about 10 minutes. It's going to be fantastic. If you have questions for her, do you answer questions, Tausha? She totally answers questions. She's fantastic. So Tausha's going to come up, and then after she's done, then we will get to the actual training portion.
Hello, my name is Tausha Hansen, and I am from Ogden, and I live there with my husband, and I have 5 children. About 7 months ago, I was sitting right where you are, learning all of this amazing material. To backtrack a little bit, I have suffered with depression and anxiety for about 11 years, and it has progressively got worse with each of my children. I have kind of been on top of it the last 4 or 5 years, though. I have felt really good. But for some reason, last December and January of this year, I was hit really, really hard. It was the worst I had ever felt in my life. And I didn't understand what was happening. The week prior to me coming to a Breaking the Chains, I couldn't even get out of bed. I was so depressed. I couldn't even get out of bed and take care of my children. My sister, who has worked with Maurice before, said, hey, Maurice is going to have a conference call that you should get on and listen to. And at this point, like I said, I could barely even function. For some reason, I was able to get on that phone call. And I listened, and it was awesome. He was talking about marriage. And then at the end, he announced a Breaking the Chains. And something propelled me forward to get off the phone and call Carol and get tickets for the Breaking the Chains. I didn't even know why I was doing it, but I did. And I didn't even have the money, actually, but the Spirit just prompted me and propelled me forward. So me and my husband came to the Breaking the Chains. The minute I walked in that room, I knew that my life was going to be different and that I was going to change somehow. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. It was amazing. And I knew immediately that I wanted to take this course, the Eternal Warriors course, and be trained on this material. And I knew that I wanted to be a mentor so that I could share it with other people. It was almost like I had received my calling in life. I knew that that's what I needed to do. And all of a sudden, that week made sense to me, why I had felt so dark and so down. And it was like Satan was trying to keep me from coming to this because he knew that it would change my life and change my children's life. So I immediately signed up to become Eternal Warriors mentor, and I was trained by Ryan and Anelity, and it is amazing. I was able to stop drinking soda. I was drinking over a gallon of soda a day, and it was gone, completely gone, and I never looked back. I haven't had any caffeinated soda since January, which is awesome, great for me. I also learned that my depression, now I know that depression is different for everybody, but my depression was Satan. This was my depression. He was trying to keep me from something. So the greatest thing that this calendar that you have in front of you, the greatest thing that it has done for me, it has helped me follow through with things that I value. Like when Marie said, are you going to say your prayers or are you going to not? I would go weeks without praying, weeks without reading my scriptures. I was trying so hard to do all the things I was supposed to do. You know, I was going to church, I was doing all these things, but I didn't have a relationship with my Heavenly Father. So not only has it helped with my depression, and my soda addiction, but it's helped. I say my prayers every day. I read my scriptures every day. I write in my journal every day. That is what has sustained me and kept me so that I don't sink down into depression. The greatest thing that it's done for my depression is before I knew about all this material, he would be spiraling me out of control for weeks, sometimes months, just out of control. And all of a sudden I would be so low, and I had no idea how I got there, and I had no idea how I was going to get out. That was depression to me. But now I'm so aware of Satan, and when he starts to mess with my brain chemistry, I feel it immediately. It's just this little shift in my body. And it's like, I don't know how to explain it. I feel it. I feel it about right here. And so I'm able to be like, oh my gosh, that's what Satan, he's trying to get me to feel like this miserable person or a failure. And so I don't spiral anymore. I don't spiral down. I'm able to get out of it so much quicker and to see Satan for who he is and stop it. And it's amazing because I get to teach my children that. And I get to teach other people who are taking my course. I get to teach them that. And that's really exciting. So is there any questions? Do you want me to go more into the calendar or? Okay. All right. Yes.
I have someone who's watching online, and she wants to know how she can become a mentor and do this with you.
Are you going to tell them about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think you'll learn most of that today, but yeah.
Thank you, Tausha.
Okay, so in regards to how to become a mentor, you can call Carol, or you can just send us an email, sbhoutreach@gmail.com, and Carol, or Melody will get in touch with you.
We're starting one today.
We are. We're having an orientation, starts today. It's going to be an hour and a half, 2 hours after Breaking the Chains.
And we'll start one again on September 2nd.
Okay. So, yeah, Mindy.
So are these the people out of state?
Yes, absolutely. We have lots of people participate via Zoom. We just ended a class, it was on Wednesday, and everyone was participating online. So even people who are in state, if you're at home and you're like, I can't leave my kids, then you can just Zoom into the class, and it's really fantastic. So, yeah, Jennifer. Yeah.
Who's right up there?
Okay.
801-558. 595. I have to push it in my hand.
When you say mentor, does that mean,
It's the 8-week training that has just for 2 hours that I talked about earlier. So it's an 8-week course.
yeah.
This
So-
is the prevention.
So the Eternal Warriors class is taught by mentors, and so then we have to train the mentors so they can teach the Eternal Warriors class. As you take the mentor training, you end up getting the Eternal Warriors experience along with a lot of other fantastic training. Did you have a question? Okay, alrighty. So, y'all, does anybody not have a calendar? Okie dokie, fantastic. So, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna be on a white, sitting on the whiteboard.
Trying to
Okay,
erase something.
so, yeah.
Square.
Okay, so on the left side of the calendar, you're going to have GRL or MAN, depending on your gender, and then everybody's going to have PWR. These are 6 letters, and they are, used to be an acronym. We could tell you the story behind it, but we're just going to leave the story for another time. So what's going to happen is we're going to start with our power goals. That's an R. Okay.
Ryan.
Yeah. Oh, will you hold that? Oh, you bet. Can you not hear me? I'm sorry, everybody.
Put it in
My
your
voice
shirt
is usually
pocket.
really loud. Put it in my pocket. Oh. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, Kimberly, can you hear me? Give Melody a thumbs up if you can hear me.
I don't have theirs.
Oh, you're not? Okay. Well.
Yes, she says yes.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So, P.
She said, yes, Ryan.
Okay, thanks, Kimberly. Kimberly was in my class. She's a rock star. Okay, so our P, that stands for prayer. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen is we do two things in Eternal Warriors. We talk about our relationship with our Father in heaven, and then with our, I'm going to do MAN, then man. We set behavioral goals. So what happens here is we can focus on the behavior all we want, and that's fantastic. But unless we seek for a more profound inner transformation, then this transformation is just going to be superficial. So we highly stress the power actions so that we become closer to our Savior, Jesus Christ, and we experience transformation by coming closer to Him, understanding Him, and experiencing the atonement on that spiritual dimension. So this, the W stands for right, and R stands for read. And then MAN are 3 goals that you set for yourself. Do we have any questions so far? Okay, awesome. So prayer, we have minimums for our prayer in Eternal Warriors. And when you're using this, we have you pray for a minimum of 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night on your knees. So my mom, when she took our mentor training, she was like, oh, I've got a problem with that, Ryan. I was like, what's your problem, like, praying? And she was like, I don't really pray, like, ever. So asking me to pray 5 minutes in the morning and at night on my knees is not going to happen. And so she was like, that's just a little bit too unrealistic for me. And so I said, okay. And so I'd read some different things about goal setting. So I said, all right, let's stretch you just a little bit. And then next week we'll revisit your goals and make them a little bit more difficult for you. So she started with her P goal for the first week, saying she was going to pray once a day before noon. And so that was her goal, on her knees. So the next week, she was like, okay, Ryan, I feel awesome. Like, I was praying for like 10 minutes. Like, as soon as I started praying, it was just fantastic. So I was like, okay, this is good. This is good progress. Now let's stretch you a little bit more. She was like, okay, I think I'm going to do 5 minutes on my knees before 8 o'clock. So I was like, okay, that's good. 5 minutes, because she's like, 'cause sometimes I only pray for like 10 seconds. But it was my prayer. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So we work with where you are, and then we want to stretch you to the minimum. If you go beyond the minimum, that's fantastic. But we want everybody to experience the minimum blessings of daily prayer. Writing, it's evolved in our mentor training, 3 different types of writing. The original intention was writing a letter to God. Did you talk about the promise with that?
No.
Okay, so what our focus is always for people to draw closer to our Father in heaven. So when we write, we invite people to write a letter to their Father in heaven. And what we found is some people who might be a little superficial in prayer will be a little bit more real and honest in writing a letter. And as they write letters, they find themselves expressing feelings to their Father in heaven that they never felt comfortable expressing before on their knees. And they end up experiencing a new relationship with their Father in heaven. For 21 days, it's been challenged that if you write a letter to God, half page on 8.5 by 11 paper, or a full page on one of these journals, it's the perfect size, you will experience a profound experience where you will know God. And when Maurice gave me this promise, this was 8 years ago, I think, I was kind of skeptical, but I wanted the experience. I think Maurice's exact words were, he will write back, is that right? Okay. So if I wrote for 21 days consistently, he will write back. And so I wanted
In a row.
In a row. So if I start, the first time I got to like day 18 and then forgot, and so started all over. But when I got to day 21, I kept going until I was at day 28. And in that time, something really profound happened. And I just knew God better than I'd ever known him before. And so this is a really, really fantastic exercise. The other thing we recommend is only something we do in the mentor training. We don't recommend this for just Eternal Warriors, but in the mentor training, we teach you about 6 questions. And the last question is something we're going to be talking about today. It's called the lost battle analysis. And so we ask, what technique did the enemy use to defeat you? Or what is the adversary going to do to you next? So those are the other things that we do. We only do that in the mentor training though. So if you take the mentor training, we'll talk about that. Otherwise, you just write letters to God. Any questions so far? I like to ask questions, but yeah, please.
When we talk about writing the letter to God, my mind went to, okay, do I use prayer language? Do I, how do you write a letter to God?
Tasha.
Respectfully, how do you do this?
Oh, okay, so just so everybody heard the question, she was saying, when I write a letter to God, how do I respectfully write it? Do I use prayer language? What do I say? So Tasha has some experience.
I would just write like he's my father. I don't use prayer language. I just talk to him like I would if he was standing right in front of me, which I think is respectful because I have such a profound relationship with him. I feel like I know him and that he knows me, and I can just talk, just write like I would a friend. There's no right or wrong way to do it, I don't think.
In 1 Nephi, Lehi prays for the people of Jerusalem, and it says that he prayed with all his heart. And when he prayed with all of his heart, the pillar of fire came down and rested on the rock in front of him. And so what I recommend when I teach people to write is just to write with all your heart. If your heart, I've had some people who are like, you know what, I'm really angry at God. And the first time they ever expressed their feelings was in writing. And they came back and they told me, as I was writing my feelings, I started to get insights. And my anger dissolved. And I felt peace and I felt love from my Father in heaven. And so the only thing I recommend is that it's sincere and it's from the heart. Because I know, then the Savior said, I stand at the door and knock. I think about our hearts and how God requires our hearts. And if we will just open our hearts to Him like we open the door, then He can come in. And so that is how I recommend writing. Does that answer your question? Okay, fantastic. Do you have any other questions about writing or the minimum for prayer? Awesome, okay. So reading, simple, 15 minutes, words of the prophets. Any questions? Okay, cool.
What if you don't feel like it?
What?
What if you don't feel like it?
Oh, yeah, we don't care. We have people who will listen to words of the prophets in conference. They'll listen to the Book of Mormon and go on a walk. Yeah.
So you're saying scriptures / conference talks,
Yep.
anything words from the prophets?
Words of the prophets. Yep. So some people are like, oh, I don't like reading. And if you don't like reading, then I just recommend listening to 1 Nephi. They're talking about the importance of the records and what they're willing to do to keep records. Yeah?
There's a question here that says, is there a difference between handwriting and typing?
No. What was that, Jennifer? Okay, someone asked, is there any difference between handwriting and typing? Thanks, Jennifer. And to that, no. I had a great example in my life who he'd type his letters to God. He's sitting on the front row in a tie and a suit. Maurice, okay. So, those are our power actions. So your man or girl power actions are 3 target behaviors that you need to stretch yourself on. I've had a lot of people who, like, you know what, I'm going to drastically change my life, and I'm going to stop smoking, and I'm going to stop eating all carbs and all sorts of wonderful things. And for some people, that works really, really well. I am not one of those people. I am, by no means am I a wallflower. However, I'm a gentle mover. So if you are one of those just tenacious, like, meat off the bone type people, then by all means, go ahead and make those goals. However, what we just recommend is that what I recommend is that you set a goal that's realistic for you, that will stretch you. Something that you're not doing that you want to do, or something that you are doing that you either want to cut back on or accomplish. Yeah, Angie.
So these are not necessarily spiritual goals, these are just any kind of goals that you want to place.
So her question was, these are not necessarily spiritual goals, but they can be any goals you want to place. Exactly.
For instance. So,
for instance, I had a goal of going on a walk 4 times a week. So I'd go on a walk 4 times a week. And it was, God said all things are spiritual unto me. I never gave any commandment that was not spiritual. So anything that we need to improve in our lives will improve our spiritual relationships, whether it's food, whether it's exercise, whether it's our social relationships. It's going to impact your spiritual experience. So it doesn't have to be, though, strictly spiritual. Yeah?
I want to give another example.
Okay. Right here, let's get to the mic so everyone can hear you.
That's true, right? I made a goal to write a letter to my husband, in addition to writing a letter to God, every day for 28 days. Completely transformed my relationship with my husband. Still going strong.
Awesome.
It's like a 3% tweak.
So it's only a positive letter, you don't get to write it.
No, I never gave him the letter. I let myself rant a little.
So, yeah, Tausha.
That's how I stopped drinking soda, but one of my goals, my girl goals was no soda.
Okay, so Tausha, tenacious, meat off the bone. Her goal was to stop drinking soda, and she cold turkey, and she did it. She was in my class, and so if you're that type of person, by all means, we encourage that. So, do we have any questions about setting goals? I'm just going to show you a little bit the mechanics on the calendar and the journal.
I did not like the sensation of jogging. That was not fun to me. I went swimming once. Ryan's a professional swimmer of sorts, was a high school skilled one, and when I videoed myself swimming, I thought someone should harpoon me. I never competed in any type of thing since I was in high school, and I'm glad I changed it. And so what we want you to do, and what Ryan trains people to do, is you set your goals the first time with the understanding that in the next 7 days, as you don't succeed them, you're going to learn something about yourself. You're going to learn about Satan, and you're going to learn about yourself. And the 8-week course, you have 28 days to actually get your goals right. And then 28 days to perfect them. So we install within it the time period that your goals are not right. So you guess the things that are important to you, you try them for a while, then what they do a really good job of training you to do is how to analyze them. Are you not getting the square because Satan's attacking you, or are you not getting the square because it's the wrong goal for you? Okay? I'll let Ryan elaborate on that if he wants to.
Okay. So, were you going to say something? Okay. Yeah, Carol.
One thing that somebody pointed out when I was taking the class was to write your goals in pencil, because you're going to change them, and that way you can erase it and change it as you need to adjust.
Yeah. So Carol's suggestion was to write your goals in pencil so that you can change them. But we do recommend that before you change your goals, you have to come talk to one of your mentors. Because one of the tactics that's going to be experienced by everybody who sets a goal, I guess I should say almost everybody who sets a goal, is a sensation of drifting. That you're going to lose commitment to your goals. They're not important to you. You know what? I didn't want to do that anyway. Like, it's a dumb goal. Like, I want to do this other thing that is just fantastic. Like, this one will solve all my problems. My life's going to be so much better if I stop walking and I start biking, because I just don't like walking. I experience that a lot, and a lot of my students experience that. So what we recommend is that you come talk to us before you change your goals, and then we find out, oh, okay, is this something you don't value? Is Satan trying to disconnect you from your attachment to your goals? Are you being spun? Or is this really something that you're realizing that it's just not going to work? You're trying to put a square in a circle. So that's that. So what's going to happen is you're going to write your goals down on this calendar under MANPWR in the blanks. So what's going to happen is you have 6 squares. Pretty self-explanatory. When you get your G or M, you mark off your G or M for that day. And it has the date. You write the date in. So today would be August 16th. You write in August 16th. And if I got all 6 of those squares, that would be on day 1, if today I was starting. Now if I got to, say, Wednesday, and I had been doing all my man and my power goals for 4 consecutive days, I'd be on day 4. If on day 5, I do all my man goals, and I pray and I read, but, you know what, I lost my journal. I can't write if I lost my journal. Well, then I'm on day 0 and I have to start all over. So we're pretty strict on, well, can I write tomorrow? Or I remembered the next morning and I wrote then. No, it doesn't count. I'm sorry. So we're pretty strict on that. Any questions about the actual calendar portion? The best part of this whole system is analyzing your lost battles.
Where do you put your calendar?
Oh, where do you put your calendar? Great question. So some people put their calendar on their fridge. Did you tell them about the dad and the ice cream? Okay, so there was this little girl. This is my favorite story. I was in Sons of Healman for, I can't even tell you how long, so I've got a whole bunch of Maurice stories. Maurice told us a story about a man who had a little girl, and he was keeping his calendar on his fridge, and he went and told her, if Daddy gets 7 stickers in a row, then I'm going to take you out to ice cream. And so she was like, yes, ice cream! So every day, she'd go wake up her dad and be like, Dad, 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 did you get a sticker today? Did you get a sticker today? And she was so serious about these stickers because she wanted ice cream. And so then when he lost a battle, he didn't get to put a sticker on. She didn't know what the stickers meant. She just knew that her dad didn't get a sticker. And so then she'd be devastated, and she'd be telling all her 5-year-old little friends, my dad didn't get a sticker today. Telling the parents, my dad did not get a sticker, so I do not get ice cream. And so she just went off. So wherever you see it often and it motivates you, some people keep it by their bed, some people keep it on their fridge, some people pin it up next to, in their restroom, so that they will see it often, somewhere where you go consistently every day so you can mark it. Great question. Any other questions that I haven't covered that you want me to cover? Awesome. Okay.
Brian, I was just gonna say,
Karen.
on that 5th day, when you didn't do that writing, then you go back to day 0.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So just to repeat, Karen, on day 5, I missed any one of the 6 goals. I go back to day 0, and then the next day is now day 1. Just to clarify. Yes, please.
So our goal is to get 7 days, correct?
The goal is to get 28 days consecutive. So in our mentor training, we make you read 5 books in 5 weeks. You also have to have 28 consecutive days, and then you have to teach and do several other trainings. Yes, Melissa?
If we're working at it in a family setting, as one of the parental figures in the family, how responsible am I in kind of monitoring when you have one kid at day 4 and one day at kid 15 and the other one being proud because they're 20 and they've never had to start over again? You know, how is it just personal space? Do we ever discuss it as a family or in a group, or how's that handled?
Great question. Now, this is a fantastic question. One I've never come up with before. Maurice.
You want me to do this?
Oh, please.
All right, I think Ryan's going to get into this a little bit, but one of the reasons that Sons of Healman works is because of positive peer pressure. One of the reasons Eternal Warriors classes works is because of positive peer pressure. Okay? There's 2 ways to do it. I really like when multiple family members, I got one woman who has like 6 of these calendars of her kids all next to each other on the bathroom mirror. And they use that as a positive peer pressure with each other. There's 2 types of rewards. One reward is if everybody gets a perfect week, then we all get one reward. Or those who achieve a perfect week can now have their own reward. I really like to do fathers and sons with their calendars next to each other. Okay? I love that, and I want the fathers checking the sons' calendar, and I want them competing. And with guys, you kind of do a reverse psychology. I says, when it comes time for your dad to read his scriptures, hide them from him.
Oh, gosh.
Okay? Okay? And if he's about to pray, bang pots and pans. Okay? It's amazing what happens between fathers and sons when they have that kind of competition. Then they get more ferociously dedicated to it. It doesn't really work with mothers and daughters. Okay? It's not. Okay? But when you see the different calendars at the different levels, each parent has to have their own personal revelation on if it's too emotionally sensitive for one child to do a group pressure type of technique. But a lot of parents know their families well enough to know how to orchestrate a positive pressure. And if you got one kid who starts the first day and goes straight to 28 days, he never got his first 6 squares written up in the right way in the first place. Okay?
Yes, you will. If you have not experienced lost battle in the first 28 days of starting the program, your goals are too easy.
Your goals are way too easy. Okay? This stuff has to kick.
I'm not so sure that's true.
Or you're a white-knuckling, like, beast.
There's some.
I trained a bishop, and I'm telling you, that man was busy, and his goals were hard. And that dude, he was taking it down, and he never had a lost battle until the 29th day. So he did 28 days.
And so with the system does not work unless there's some kind of a pressure. Okay, it's a social positive peer pressure. Now, because Sons of Helaman issues are so delicate, you need a therapist there to make sure the pressure is the right amount, not too much, not too little. But parents usually do a good job, ecclesiastical leaders, so know your students, get to know them, and you govern the pressure.
And that's where, when we did the 4 types of people, we as just
Yes.
parents and ecclesiastical leaders, we can easily handle 1 and 2.
Yes.
Okay, so
But don't
that's
try to
what
work
say
with
falls
number
under.
3.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure, question.
And so you'll do it. I have confidence. If you're here, you have what it takes to learn how to do this. You'll probably do it wrong a little bit, but you'll learn how to overpressure, underpressure, overpressure, underpressure. You'll be fine. The principles work for themselves. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort to just keep working at it.
Awesome.
So do you set new goals after the 28?
Yes.
And evaluate and then you
Yes.
With the intent that you just keep getting better and better and better. This is designed to be used for your entire life.
Angie.
So do we keep these are goals that are not kept private?
Okay, so she asked if these goals are not kept private. So the way the class has been structured, if you're a bishop or you're concerned about your child having misbehavior issues, it's designed so that one goal can be kept personal. And so we say, oh, you know, I have my personal goal. The nice thing about the personal goal, I have a personal goal of not eating cheesecake. I have this horrible problem though, and I keep telling people that it's cheesecake. But so you can keep it personal. I know other people who will just give it another name and talk about it in like fashion. So it's designed to be a little inconspicuous. Is your question? No? Awesome. Okay. So, can you all hear me and everybody else?
You're going to have to either put it on your belt or they just can't hear you and hear it and you're talking way too.
Oh, you know what? Am I not talking loud enough?
You can
Okay.
use sweet voice.
I typically project this is my normal speaking voice.
Project.
And I always got in trouble because they'd be like, Ryan, you're too loud. Tone it down. So, because my whole family is really, really, really loud. My last name is Call, and so we got our last name because it was the town criers. And so I'm not joking you, this is in our family history. Okay, I'm sorry. I've got my gentle voice, but I need to
Call, Ryan, call.
Okay,
so
you
you
know what? I will just project. So let's talk about the lost battle analysis. So what's going to happen is if your goals are hard,
Introduce them to the first 4 questions just to walk
Okay.
through them and then get to that.
if your question, all right. So we're going to start with the first. We have 6 questions. Are the questions in the journal right now?
They're in the Sons of Mosiah journal. Do you have a
Okay,
Sons of
I
Mosiah?
don't have a Sons of Mosiah journal. So the questions are in Like Dragons, and if you have a Sons of Mosiah journal.
Okay, never mind. Just skip to what you're doing.
Okay, awesome. So what's going to happen is you're going to set goals, and then you're going to run into this counter current that doesn't want you to be successful with anything, and we call him Satan. So what's going to happen is you're going to be going through your calendar, and you're like, I'm doing great, I'm on day 12, and then you're going to go on vacation, or something's going to happen that was completely unexpected, and you're not going to hit your goals. So at this point, we have the greatest opportunity for growth right here, as well as growth right here. This is why the lost battle analysis is fantastic. If used correctly, it can help us identify personal weaknesses. Oh, I'm not projecting again, sorry. So, no, if used correctly, it can help us identify personal weaknesses. Oh, you know what? I have some pride right here. I need to go repent. And then there's other times where it's oh, you know what? I did not plan correctly. And so it will help us in both aspects of our behavior as well as our spiritual growth. So what we do is we identify when did it happen. So if you're in a Sons of Healing class, they'll be oh, I don't know. And we're okay, well, was it on Saturday? No. It was on Friday. No. It was on Thursday. You know what? I think so. Okay. Do you know what time? No, man. Okay. Was it in the morning? No. Was it between 10 and 5? Yeah, actually. Okay, fantastic. Was it at 10 o'clock? No. 11 o'clock. no. 12 o'clock? Yeah, man, like, what's gonna happen? Okay, great, so it happened at, so 12 o'clock, that's when all heck broke loose. So we don't really care about what actually happened, we care about everything leading up to what happened. So we say, all right, we talked about the chemical scale, we start at 5. So we say, at what point did you give up? At what point did you throw your hands up in the air? Say, heck with this whole thing. So they're like, okay, well, at 12 o'clock. Okay, fantastic. So then we go back, what happened, when were you at a level 4? And they're like, oh, well, I started having this conversation at, and then they identify the time. We're like, oh, fantastic, okay. What about the 3? When were you when did you have the dude moment? And they're like, oh, and so then they'll be like it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. Oh, wow, yeah, okay, fantastic. Okay, so then we go back to the 2. When were you feeling emotional? If you have a man, they're usually like, I don't know. For women, they're like, I was feeling emotional the whole day, like the day before, and sometimes the day before that. And so they're like, okay, we dial it back to the 1. And most times people don't know a 1 if they're new, so then we jump back to the 0. When were you last feeling on your game? And they're like, oh, okay. And then usually they're like, oh, you know what? It was sometimes a couple hours, sometimes weeks. And we had one person who was like, I was getting stoned for 4 weeks. Like, I was at a 0, and then all of a sudden I was at a 1, and he just kept me at a 1 for like 3 weeks. Then he took me to a 2, and then a 3, and I just didn't even realize what was happening. So then we take it back, and it helps them. The whole point of that exercise is to help them identify when their chemicals are being manipulated by Satan. And so that helps them connect parts of their brains that you'd learn about. It's a really fantastic exercise. And then we go, is there a pattern? Yeah, you know what? I knew this was coming. Okay, great. How would you replay the event differently? Like, oh, you know what? They go back to that 0, and they find out when they hit a 1, they set some sort of marker, and then they're like, and then I realize that I'm at a 1, and then I go to my flagpole, and then I use warrior chemistry, and then I pray, and then I read my scriptures, and then I'm solid. Or they'll say, you know what, I'm going to start doing I'm going to start planning every night. What is the adversary going to use, or what technique is the adversary going to use to defeat you? So I just gave you a brief rundown. We have a couple more minutes. I want to know the questions, because I'm assuming there's questions. Yeah?
What was the question, or what was the statement that you just said something about Satan, the chemistry, that part, that Satan...
What's the technique Satan used?
Oh, maybe. It was like...
What technique did the adversary use to defeat you?
Yeah, and then you mentioned something about chemistry,
okay.
though.
It helps people identify when Satan is manipulating their body chemistry.
Yeah. Okay, say that again.
The lost battle analysis helps people identify when Satan is manipulating their body chemistry.
Okay.
So will you show them that section in the book?
You betcha. So, at the very end, there's a whole section about the lost battle analysis. So what it's going to do is it's going to... Oh, okay, thanks. There, in the journal, there's a section about the lost battle analysis, and what it's going to do is it's going to walk you through everything I just walked you through. So it's going to say, oh, hey, we're going to talk about when, what happened. They're going to go through the levels. There's going to be an explanation of what the levels are and questions you can ask to help you identify what happens and when it was happening. And then you're going to get to this great section on the Manpower Journal, it's page 130. And it's just blank pages to write and do your analysis and do all the heavy lifting that you need to do to be like, hey, you know what? And then I realized, boom, I have not been relying on my Savior. I thought I could do it by myself. Satan was telling me, you can do this by yourself. And what happens is Moroni in the Book of Mormon, they get defeated by the Lamanites, and so then he's like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to dig ditches. And then we're going to use those ditches and we're going to make mounds. And then on those mounds we're going to put towers. And then on those towers we're going to put spikes and pickets. And then we're going to put people on top of those. And that's what we invite people to do when they do the lost battle analysis. Oh, what? You just lost a battle? Okay, what happened? Awesome. Okay, now let's restructure your whole paradigm. and help you make changes so that this doesn't happen again. So the Lamanites don't come and defeat you again. Let's teach you about relying on the Savior more. Let's teach you how to put on your armor so that you don't get spun as easily. It's absolutely fantastic. Do you have any other questions about the lost battle analysis, how to do it?
Let me jump in with you for a second. Okay. So, will you open up to that page again? So, one of the most important things in my work, in my discovery, and one of the goals we have, and you're going to have for yourself or for anyone you're working with, is back to that theme about the two parts of the brain fighting against themselves. You're going to be surprised at how many times you have to repeat this theme, that it's not about you being broken. It's not about you being broken. It's about you being a threat to Satan, and we're going to figure out how he's attacking you. The way the first part of that's phrased in that lost battle analysis, in like the first or second page, you're going to see in bold print there where it says, what technique did the enemy use to defeat you? Now, in any other system, you're going to hear questions like, what did you do wrong? What's wrong with you? Why did you slip? Things that refer to you as a person who has something wrong with you. As an athlete, as a serious athlete in high school, I won about 90% of my matches. When I lost, was it because I was a bad wrestler? Okay? When you're that good, you don't lose because you're bad. You lose because someone's better than you. And when a teenager or anybody else loses to a 7,000-year-old genius, why are we surprised? Why are we surprised that a 17-year-old loses to a 7,000-year-old? Okay? But we can do the same thing you do in any athletic or music thing. You take a recording. What Ryan just walked you through is the process we do of reviewing what happened, just like an athlete will review what happened. But instead of saying, what did I do wrong, you say, what technique did the enemy use to defeat me? How did he get me to a level 1? How did he get me to a level 2? What was the level 3 moment? What was going on with level 4? And as he described, you're going to learn the more times you analyze it, it's giving you an enhancement to your spirit of discernment. That's what athletes experience. Every time they review their videotapes, their discernment and their skills increase. An addict usually tries to block out his lost battle because he's humiliated by it. Okay? We walk them through the uncomfortable process, and it's really good for you. You've got to know your own lost battle patterns. You've got to see why you got those cookies again. When did you give up? When were you at level 5? And you do it backwards. Level 5, level 4, what was my retarded conversation? What was level 3? What was level 2? What feelings was I having? What was my level 1? Okay, don't worry. You do not have to be a professional at this. You can walk them through, and you should have discoveries every time you help someone just as much as they are. And you should learn a little bit more about Satan every time. And the phrase we use for it is you gain a testimony of him. It's a weird and uncomfortable thing. I saw him again. There he is again. Okay? And so there's 4 steps to it that I think Ryan may spend more time on. 1, what technique did the enemy use to defeat you? You're going to need to know that question. And you got to ask it correctly. Do not get in the habit of asking, what did you do wrong? It's vital. It's a vital part of the training. What technique did the enemy use to defeat you? I asked them also, why do you think he's attacking you? Is it because you matter? He doesn't attack people that don't matter. He only attacks people that matter. Okay? And then, is there a pattern? What are you going to do next to beat him? And what drills do you need to do to make sure you beat him next time? Okay? That's all contained in great detail in that section. So you're going to want to know. In the lecture, we have 4 different versions of the journal. There's one for women, one for young men. That's Eternal Warriors, the one he has in his hand. One for missionary age, or just before, just after. And one for married men. Go ahead.
Where do we get these journals?
We have a whole box of them out here.
And do they come with a class, or are they just sales?
There's a
Yeah,
little,
they'll come with the class.
they'll come with the Eternal Warriors training, but they don't come with this class.
And then can we buy them out there?
Yes, she's ready for you. They're separate. The Like Dragons Did They Fight book is $15 by itself. The Eternal Warriors Journal is $15 by itself, but together you get them for $25.
So now that this is required in the Sons of Healing program, do they get a journal?
They will.
For that program, or do we have to provide that for them?
They will get one, but we will be charged for it.
Okay, but you'll give them to an.
Yes, each clinician will be. So those who don't know, the Eternal Warriors Prevention Training Program and the Men of Moroni program have been using these journals already. they've asked the families are learning about it, how come you don't use this mandatory for the Sons of Healing boys? Because the program didn't start out with that way, but we are seeing that it will decrease relapses. And so they have to get 28 perfect days in a row for their last 28 days of manpower goals, in addition to their perfection of the other issues. And so this is designed to decrease relapse and make it so they can win for longer periods of time.
So if they're already in the program but haven't got a journal, they will.
The clinician will give it to them, unless they've already got one. Some of the guys have already gotten them.
So I just want to put in a plug for having your own experience with the calendar and the journal. My mom, I just wanted to put in a plug for having your own experience with the journal and the calendar. My mom is the coolest woman on the planet. If you ever have the privilege of meeting her, you'll be grateful. She's amazing. So she was very, very proactive, and she read like dragons, she was using calendars and journals, absolutely fantastic. And there was one particular time in my life where I had kind of an ugly lost battle, and she was really upset. And I didn't know that she knew about it. She was really, really upset, she was angry, and she came to me a couple days later, and she was like, hey, I wanted to talk to you about something. I said, okay, what's going on? And so she told me what had happened, that she was aware of what had happened, and then she said, you know what, I was mad, I was hurt, and then after I was praying, and I was praying out all my anger and all my hurt, it came back to, when you lost, what technique did the enemy use to defeat you? And she said, and I realized that you're not the enemy, that Satan is the enemy, and you were tricked. And she was like, and I'm not mad at you. And that was one of those moments where I was just like, oh my gosh, I have the coolest mom in the entire world. And so I want all of you to know that regardless of what your circumstance is, doing this will give you more empathy for other people when they're having human moments and weaknesses. I can tell you Maurice is like the king of letting people have human moments and weaknesses, because he knows that when we are having human moments and weaknesses, is the adversary taking advantage of us. And I promise you that living this, that working it, will help you understand that and develop more compassion for people and understanding for your whole family and situation. Thank you.
Thank you.